On today's episode of Locked On Angels, what should have been a series split this weekend turned into a 3-1 series loss to the Royals. And John and I have the weekend recap, plus a convo with Ron Washington that caused us to scratch our heads. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use our promo code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100.
Hey, happy Monday to you, and thank you for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, it's our third season here at Locked On Angels. We've been fans of this team for many, many years, and it's a pleasure, a privilege to be talking Angels baseball with you every Monday through Friday here on Locked On Angels. Thank you for being an everydayer. On today's show, we're going to give you a weekend recap of what happened between the Angels and the Royals this weekend. But first, Mike, what's up with this conversation that the Halos and Ron Washington gave to the media? Are the Halos a playoff team or a rebuilding team? Wash gave an answer. Why don't you get into that for us?
Yeah, Sam Blum talked to Ron Washington, and he asked the question, if he looks at 2024 as a rebuilding season, a learn how to win season, or a win now playoff season. So Wash said, win now. So here's the full answer, Johnny. He said, win now. We're still looking to get to the playoffs. If this becomes a rebuilding process, you guys will be the first to know about it. We're trying to go out there every night and win ball games with the personnel we have. Our job is to get that personnel prepared to go out there and do what the game asks them to do. If we can get them prepared and do what the game asks them to do, who says we can't win? I do. I know that you look at our record, and our record doesn't look good or anything, but that's not how we feel. Inside here, we feel like every night we go out there and we can win a ball game, and it's not going to be different tonight. So Sam then retweeted. He followed up with a tweet, and he said, here's the thing. He's not wrong. The Angels are taking almost no proactive steps to rebuild. That leaves them down the path of they're trying to be a contender, something that they've been awful at the last decade. It all feels like a lack of direction because it does lack direction. So, Johnny, what an interesting comment.
Yeah.
That they're in win now mode. And Barry Manassian in the offseason said, we're going to try to win. Yet all of the moves that they have made, or lack thereof, have indicated that this isn't a win now scenario. And if it is, John, they're drinking something funky. Like they're drinking
not the Kool-Aid. It's
right?
Worse than Kool-Aid. It's expired.
Yeah, because this doesn't match. It just doesn't feel right. It feels very strange. Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, Mike, you have to consider that everybody, I think Angel fans included, have looked at this as a prototypical rebuild. Well, maybe not prototypical in the sense that, they traded away every possible star that they can. But the fact is we all looked at this year as no expectations. We all looked at this year as let the young guys go out there and figure it out and play. And if they have success, great. If not, then you're going to have a record like this. But at least the guys are getting the reps that they deserve. I think Jo Adell is a great example of that. Of course, we'll talk about him from this weekend and everything that he was able to do. Mike, if he doesn't get the reps, then we don't get to see the Jo Adell that we saw over the weekend. But that's what this year is supposed to be about. And maybe I'll put it this way. Maybe you and I decided that ourselves here on the show because that's kind of how we viewed this offseason and how we looked at it. But for them to continue to hammer home that they're going to be a win now team, I think it's just like brain damage, right? Like what else?
Yeah.
What I mean, everybody sees it except for the Angels. And I don't know if it's a ploy to just fans don't go anywhere because we need you and we're going to win. Don't worry. We're a win now team. We're going to be competitive. Still show up to the ballparks. Still do this. Still do that. By the way, attendance is down to 15th in the league and about down 12% from last year. And it's not a surprise, Mike. It's not a surprise. But I think this is the epitome of your I'll use this example because we're guys. Your girlfriend's going to leave you and you say, "Oh, babe, don't go. I'll change. I'll be better. I'll do this better." Like, isn't this what that feels like?
Yeah. When we did the Super Halo Bros podcast before we were on Locked On Angels, something we talked about on one of those episodes was Albert Pujols, because we started 2021, right?
That's right.
And we were talking about Albert Pujols and his perspective of himself versus how other people view him. And you shared about cognitive dissonance, right? And that's what this feels like.
That's what this is. You're right.
It feels like they have no self-awareness about themselves because, man, if that's not true, John, then they are just really leaning into the manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're
saying if they don't believe what they are telling us,
yes,
this is pure manipulation.
Yes, and like this just feels so manipulative if they're not self-aware, right? Like, so I hope that they're not self-aware, because if they're manipulative, it's not working. Washington, it's not working. Perry, it's not working. Artie, it's not working. We see right through this. We see through everything that you're doing. This isn't a winning playoff team. This isn't that team. A lot of hope in these young guys, a lot of good guys potentially becoming better guys, but this isn't a playoff winning team. This isn't a team that's going to go anywhere. And to think and to say and to communicate that it is just feels very disingenuous. And so maybe it is cognitive dissonance, or maybe it is manipulation. John, if you were to flip a coin and that coin was going to land, where would you side? Do you think it really is cognitive dissonance, or do you think that it is some angel manipulation?
I think it's angel manipulation, but here's the thing. When I really drill into what Ron Washington has said, let me go back to the quote here. We're trying to go out every night and win ball games with the personnel that we have. Are they doing that? Of course. Yes. I don't believe that they're not doing that.
100%.
Mike. I believe that Logan O'Hoppe wants to win. Zach Neto wants to win. Ron Washington wants to win. Like, they're doing what they want to do and what they need to do to win. They just can't because of the bullpen blowing up or Carlos Estevez blowing a save. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I trust in the guys on this team. So don't hear me say that I think that the guys or even Ron Washington are being manipulative here. I think it's the company line that we've been told since the offseason of we're going to be competitive and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then, Mike, you have to look at the facts. The fact is Artie Moreno has cut payroll and has dialed that back because he knew and anticipated that attendance would be down this year because the team, one, doesn't have Ohtani, and two, they weren't going to be very good. And while you and I had a lot of hope, and I think a lot of Angel fans have a lot of hope for these young guys, look, I'm not ready to write off anybody of that young core on this team. But the fact is, you knew Trout was going to get hurt. You knew Rendon was going to get hurt. You knew that the starting pitching was really going to have to be something that they haven't been ever. And yeah, maybe they've had flashes of greatness like Sandoval's 2022, 2.91 ERA. Fantastic. But he also didn't do that last year. And so you knew what you had coming into the season. You knew what you needed to address, and you didn't address it. You addressed the bullpen, and somehow, and I talked about this, Mike, on Friday, how in the world does Robert Stevenson pass medicals and pass screenings? And also, why do they have that elbow clause in the contract? Doesn't that seem a little fishy, right?
Yeah.
And so it all adds up to a team that lacks direction. It adds up to a team that doesn't know what they are. Again, not talking about the boys on the field, because I love and respect the guys. I think they go out there, they work hard, they're working through things, and I will give them all the credit for working through things. I give credit to somebody like Jo Adell reducing his strikeout rate, and I give credit to Zach Neto trying to improve his defense, Logan O'Hoppe trying to step up and be a leader, even Barry Enright working with Patrick Sandoval and saying, hey, dude, you got to cut that four seam. It's no good. I give credit to all those guys because that's doing your job, right? That's doing your job. Now, whether you're better than the other team, that's a different story.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we are seeing on the field. But as far as the Angels and their company line, if you wanted to compete this year, you certainly could have done a much better job in the offseason than what you did, right?
Yeah. And that was, going back to Artie, his comment was, well, we're just not going to spend money to spend money, but you didn't spend any money. They say that they spent $40 million on that bullpen. John, 33 million of it was Robert Stevenson.
Yeah. For 3 years, Mike.
For 3 years. And so the other 7 million was for 4 or 5 guys.
Let's really add up to 18, 19 million?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
You really didn't spend what you said you spent, and it really wasn't a game-changing decision to bring in all of these pieces. I don't think that any of those pieces are horribly awful pieces, but they haven't been great pieces. And like you said, this team is trying to be good, but they're not better than other teams. If you put our roster against other rosters, right? They're not. And the potential of them getting hot and ripping off a few in a row, there's a great potential for that, especially with these young hitters starting to get hot and starting to come through. I could see them clawing away at this 11 games under 500 record. But to say that we're going to be, playing for the playoffs, it feels so silly. It just feels so dumb.
Let's be real here, Mike. The two best relievers in the bullpen right now are Hunter Strickland and Adam Simber.
Yeah.
Hunter Strickland was contemplating retirement.
Right.
And we gave him a minor league deal to be a AAA guy for us in case we needed him.
Yep.
Adam Simber, totally one of my favorites this year. And I had confidence that he would be able to come back from his injury. And he certainly did. But they still took a risk on a guy with a 7.12 ERA last season who had a shoulder problem. And they just lucked out with the fact that Adam Simber has been good and that he did get past his injury. It would have been the most Angels baseball thing if Adam Simber was worse or had more shoulder issues or what have you. And so I think they really lucked out on that pick. So again, the two guys that are doing the most for this bullpen are Adam Simber, who was injured last year, and Hunter Strickland, who is contemplating retirement. So don't tell me you had a plan. Don't tell me that you knew what you were doing coming into this season. Hey, I want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. The Angels are playing the Cardinals tonight at the Big A. It's a rare Cardinals appearance at the Big A. Mike, I went to 4th of July against the Cardinals in 2013, and Wainwright pitched.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, we don't have a chance. And I think the Angels got to Wainwright. I don't think they won the game because it was 2013. That year was awful.
Yeah.
But they got to Waino, and I am excited to say that, hey, I got to see Wainwright pitch at the Big A.
That's cool.
So it is cool that the Cardinals are going to be there. It's 6:38 Pacific time. Jose Soriano is on the mound. Mike, you said flip a coin earlier. I'm going to flip a coin again. What kind of Jose Soriano are we going to get on the mound tonight? Well, you can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels, and coming up on Locked On Angels, we're going to give you a recap of the 4 games against the Royals from Thursday to Sunday and how they ruined everybody's Mother's Day. And we'll talk about that coming right up.
Johnny, when I took over the church that I'm at a few years back, I had to work with our administration on insurance and all of that stuff. And we have a joke at church where I'm like, they don't teach you this at Bible college, how to find insurance, right? And then even at home, when I think about insurance and I think about life insurance, they don't teach you that in school. It's just not something that's natural, which is why I love Policygenius, because they are the smarter way to buy insurance. They have technology that makes it easy to compare personalized quotes and policies from top-rated insurers side by side. The team at Policygenius is filled with licensed experts, so not me, which is great. They know what they're talking about. They're ready to answer your questions. They're ready to handle paperwork, and you and I both know that paperwork is not fun at all. And I love that when it's online and you can just click the little box and it puts your name in for you. I love that stuff. Policygenius has all of the little tips and trades and tools, and they're there to help you make decisions with confidence. They work for you, not the insurance companies, which is great. So their recommendations are going to be what's beneficial for you. So from exploring coverage options to making policy adjustments as your life changes, Policygenius is your advocate every step of the way. They're committed to your information remaining secure. That's really important in our world right now. Their security is your top priority, and your security is their top priority. They have industry-leading security practices to keep your information safe. You can check life insurance off your list in no time with Policygenius. So head to their website, policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. Use that website so that they know you came from our show. Or you can click the link in the description and get your free life insurance quote and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB.
Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. If you haven't done so already, everydayers, you got to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, news, opinions, all the good stuff you enjoy about Locked On Angels, but across the entire sports world. It's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And speaking of your team every day, the Angels are playing the Cardinals at 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Johnny, let's talk about Thursday and Friday's game. And they played the Royals, and the Royals spent the most money in the offseason of any team in the American League, which was a shock, right?
Yeah.
And one of the guys that they went and got was somebody that you have been a fan of, and that is Michael Wacha. And Michael Wacha really shut the Angels down on Thursday. The Angels lost 10-4, and the Angels didn't have a hit off of Michael Wacha until Logan O'Hoppe singled with 2 outs in the 4th inning. And Johnny, they only had 2 hits through 6 innings in this game.
The guy with a 5.50 ERA coming into this game, and the one shot that I thought, if the Angels are going to win a game this weekend, it's going to be on Thursday against Michael Wacha. Well, that's not what happened, Mike. It's interesting to do that, to look back at this game, because the Royals won this game by scoring really early. They had a 4-run 3rd inning that included a 2-run home run from Darian Blanco. Again, down in the order. Somebody number 7, number 8, and then you can add a 2-run blast from Vinny Pasquantino 4 batters later. You know what? He drives me nuts because everybody hypes him up before the season, and I pick him up in fantasy, and he stinks, and so I drop him, and as soon as that happens, he starts to go off. So I can't get a read on that guy, so I just stay away from Pasquantino. But this was the 3rd straight start where Detmers didn't look like the same guy from the start of the season. Mike, did you see the broadcast reference our segment from Monday when we talked about what's the deal with Detmers? Oh, wait, that didn't happen. They actually talked about his fastball usage in his good starts versus his bad starts and where he was locating it. And then they used that information on Thursday night. And I thought, hey, somebody watches Locked On Angels, or somebody follows us, because somebody in that production room certainly had the same wavelength. We were on the same wavelength as we were in terms of figuring out what was up with Detmers. But Mike, talk about what happened with Detmers.
6 runs on 7 hits and 2 walks in 5 innings. He's now given up 18 runs over his last 3 starts. That's 15 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, he had a 2.12 ERA heading into his April 28th start, and it's more than doubled now. It's 4.96. So he's given up a lot of runs, but the fact that he's only at 4.96 shows how good he was when he started the season.
That's true.
And this was one of those games, John, where the Angels let the game get away from them, and then you could just feel this team check out. Now, I don't want to say that they did, but you could just feel like they were like, well, let's just get it over with, right? You know, and I know that there were some hits late in the game where they're trying to come through, but you could tell like there's not going to be an opportunity for them to come back. And this is one of those games where you just got to go, well, turn the page. This, I think, would be a turn the page type of game, right?
Well, none of these lineups inspire any confidence either.
No.
I mean, good grief. We talk about they want to be a competitive win now playoff team. Well, we're certainly scraping the bottom of the barrel of AAA guys that we need to get. But Mike, that's exactly what we said over the offseason. all that we had to talk about when the Angels made a move was, well, they got Willie Calhoun, and here's what we think they'll do with him, and Jake Marisnick, who we haven't seen yet, but that's all we could talk about until they actually signed Robert Stevenson. And you and I said many times on this show, these are the guys you hope you never see on the club because it means there's been an injury to Trout or something like that. And here we are, probably 6 months after we said those exact words, this is the exact state that we're in as an Angel team. So that team lineup does not inspire any confidence right now, especially when you have so many injuries and guys on the IL. Friday was a 2-1 loss, Mike. This is the worst kind of loss I think the Angels do to us every single time. Can you talk about it? Because I'm verklempt.
Yeah, came down to the ninth inning, top of the ninth inning. The Angels were up 1-0 because Griffin Canning pitched really well.
Yes.
5 2/3, no earned. Johnny, Canning now has a 3.67 ERA over his last 5 starts. He's allowed just 2 runs in 11 2/3 innings pitched in those last 2 starts. Canning said after the game that this was a good one to build off of. He's just trying to stay focused on me versus the hitter and focusing on attacking the zone. One of the things that he also said was that he was really focused on his mechanics in the last few games, and he's decided to move away from that and just focusing on throwing an excellent pitch.
The fastball velocity was up too, and I think that made a huge difference. Now, I know not everybody likes the fact that they're on Apple TV because it is another platform you have to subscribe to and whatnot. Now, if you got the email, there was a free 2-month code for Apple TV if you're a MLB person and you're on their mailing list. But Mike, I have to say that I really enjoyed the fact that we had Wayne Randazzo, of course, which is his Friday night gig is Apple TV, which is why he's not always on the Angel broadcast. But because it was Angels, he got to be there. And Dontrell Willis, I loved listening to him.
Yeah.
And
D-Train.
Wayne go back and forth. And D-Train, it was great because he was calling him Wheezy for Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
And so he was calling Wayne Randazzo Wheezy. But Dontrell had a lot to say about Griffin Canning. And really, it was a pitcher's duel with Alec Marsh. And even when Alec Marsh made mistakes, Mike, the Angels couldn't capitalize on it. They were not very good with runners in scoring position on Friday night. So
both teams were not great. But here's the thing. This young team got a run across, and Griffin Canning in the bullpen held it down.
Yeah.
And then your bullpen leader,
right,
who is a veteran who should be leading this team, comes in, and you should be confident that this is not going to be a problem, especially if he's going to face somebody like Adam Frazier, who's batting under 200 with no home runs.
Yes.
But that's not what happened. He hits a 2-run home run. Carlos said after the game on that pitch, he said, as soon as I let it go, I felt I pulled it a little. It cut on me. That's the only spot he could have done that down the line like that. This is his 5th blown save, 3rd time that he's taken a loss and they've had to lose the game because of him. And then when it was asked about like, hey, have you lost your confidence? He said no, because of the way that he's been beaten. Now, to Estevez's credit, 11 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 14 and he hasn't walked anybody. But John, our friends over at Angels Win tweeted something that I thought was really interesting. Carlos Estevez, post All-Star break, has a 6.59 ERA last year. And then through the first 6 weeks this year, 6.17. So I wonder if the first half of last season was maybe a bit of an anomaly for him, and that the pitcher that we're experiencing at the end of last year and the beginning of this year is the pitcher that we have in Carlos Estevez.
Can I throw out a suggestion?
Yeah.
A theory?
Sure.
It's moving from the NL to the AL, Mike. I understand that every team plays everybody now, and that opened up more in 2023. But look, he was with the Rockies that whole time and did not face a lot of AL teams. And so I understand why he went on the Linsanity run, if you will, that he did to start last season. And I don't quite – I would need to spend more time understanding where he's making his mistakes. But one thing that I thought was an issue coming into the season was the velocity. It was not near where it was last year. I thought maybe he was – you've talked about it before, like saving those bullets in terms of fastball velocity. But Mike, if he seems to think that Adam Frazier could only do damage in that one spot, it's like, well, you got a lot of other spots to put the ball, buddy. So Don't put it there.
And that's where you make the mistake. You make the mistake in the one spot.
Right.
Really?
Right. So I don't know. I mean, he can call it confidence. I think it's a matter of deflection. I know that he does own up to the fact that, yeah, this loss is on me and that sort of thing. But I just think it's silly to put excuses out like that where, well, it's the one spot he could have got me. Then don't put it there, dude. Don't put the ball there.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and they're also the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. We've talked about Prize Picks before. We've played Prize Picks, and I'm getting better at it, John. It's really easy to use. You're not playing against a bunch of pros and sharks. It's just you against the numbers. You pick between 2 and 6 players and decide if they're going to produce more than or less than the projected stat. And here's the projected stat typically. It's a 0.5 stat. So if you're going to pick, like Griffin Canning's going to pitch 5.5 innings, do you think it's going to be less than that or more than that? They give you an opportunity to see the number and not be like, oh man, I don't know. Like the number is typically very clear as to where you need to lean. And so I've been good at it. I know that you've been good at it, and other people have tried it from Locked On Angels. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and then add them to your Prize Pick entry today, and then you can watch the winnings roll in. And when you win, Prize Picks also offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account. And so download Prize Picks today, enter our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and they're going to give you a first deposit match of up to $100. Just again, use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That way they know that you came from Locked On Angels, and you get an extra $100. How about that? Join Prize Picks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Mike, Saturday, the Angels won this one 9-3. A good team showed up, and they put some runs on the board and got to Cole Reagans, Mike. And that's unfortunate for me because he started that game.
He's your boy.
For me. And but you know what? I'm glad to see the Angels get a win in this one. Tyler Anderson was on the mound for the Angels. He pitched well, gave up 3 earned runs across 6 2/3 innings pitched. He's got a 2.92 ERA on the season.
Yeah.
Great trade capital, Mike. When the Angels decide to sell it all, let's get something back for Tyler Anderson. Jo Adell this weekend was making plays and hitting home runs. He hits a 3-run homer to get it started for the Angels into the dang rock pile. He did that on Friday, and then he hit a 3-run home run in this one on Saturday. So, man, he is just tearing it up right now. And I was glad to see that he's getting the reps that he deserves and a lot of support from Angel fans and even MLB fans, because MLB posted his home run and people said, is he the prospect that maybe we all thought he was 4 years ago? And I don't know that he is the top 10 prospect that he was, but still a valuable piece of this team because he got the scoring started. Kevin Pillar also, Mike, went 3 for 4 in this one with 3 RBIs. Kyron Paris, who recently got called up and had a sub 100 batting average in the minors, he went 1 for 3 with a walk in his season debut, and the offense really came alive against Cole Reagans. Mike, what was the difference in this game?
Yeah, the difference in this game was that this team was hitting their pitch. They were going with pitches, and they looked so confident in the batter's box. Johnny, I think because you have these guys on your roster, they should be in there every single day. And the guys that I'm talking about are the veteran guys. I know Kevin Pillar was DFA'd, and I know he wasn't having a great year, but you need professional hitters right now because you don't have many professional hitters, and you have some that are developing, which is why I think that somebody like Jake Marisnick needs to be up on this roster right now too. You need more guys on this roster with some credibility and some history before you wave the white flag or before you say, well, we want to give this guy a shot. You need to figure out who you are. If you're going to go after the playoffs, then get a professional hitter in those spots. But if not, then have Kyron Paris play all of the time. Have him play all of the time because the reps he could get right now could be really beneficial for him in his future, right?
Yeah, he's somebody that, we've heard a lot about in the time that the Angels have had him. And so it's a guy who has been I don't want to say prospect, but in terms of the Angel system, he's been a prospect that we've heard a lot of hype
Still
about.
young too.
And he's still young. And so, yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens. But Mike, it goes back to, do you want to win now?
Yeah.
Or is this a year to figure things out? I think if it's a figure it out year, then yes, Paris plays more. Right now, they're desperately in need for infielders. So that's why Paris is here, obviously. We got Luis Guillorme over the, right before the series started and whatnot. So the Angels are in desperate need for infielders. And so that's the situation right now. Mike, as we move on to Sunday's game, the Angels lost this one 4-2. Patrick Sandoval allowed 4 earned runs in 6+ innings on 11 hits and no walks. Mike, all 4 of those runs came in the 4th.
Yeah.
Now, you might be asking yourself, was it the fastball? Well, the truth is he threw his fastball 3 times, 3% of his total pitches in this game.
Yeah.
But you know what it was, Mike? It was his changeup and his sinker. Both pitches that are supposed to move downward were up in the zone where they were just super hittable, weren't they?
Yeah, very hittable. And that's where he made his mistakes. It wasn't that he was throwing that fastball again. It was just that he wasn't locating really well. And Logan O'Hoppe had a great spot for him, and Logan wanted those pitches down, but Patrick Sandoval left him up. Now, overall, not a bad start from Patrick. In fact, his last few starts have been much better than how he was and who he was at the beginning of the year. But John, this is just really frustrating with this team. They're 10-12 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5-14 at home.
Yeah.
If they were 10-12 at home and 10-12 on the road, like this, they'd be in this race,
sure,
or at least they'd be respectable.
Yeah.
But the fact that they can't win at home and they're winning on the road with this roster is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Willie Calhoun was 3 for 4 with a double and a solo home run. And really, that's just where all the offense came from. But this was a series loss. Once again, Mike, you said it at the top of the show, the Angels had a chance to split it and maybe even win it.
Yep.
But the problem is you've got Carlos Estevez doing his thing and guys not hitting situationally. And sometimes the lineup construction, I still am not a fan sometimes of Ron Washington's lineups construction. So here we are, 5-14 at home, like you mentioned, 10-12 on the road, 15-26 overall, 11 games under 500, and double digits once again, Mike, under 500. It's been rough for the Halos so far. We'll see how things go against another sub 500 team in the Cardinals starting tonight.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels do play those Cardinals at 6:38 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, and connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube. Find today's show, get in the comments section, hit that like button because when you do, it puts our show in front of other Angels fans who might not know about Locked On Angels. So we want to encourage you to invite more people to be part of the conversation. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
We're going to play a game called If I Was the Hitting Coach, What Would I Do with This Offense? We're going to talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
If I were a hitting coach and you were Ron Washington. That
was good.
No,
it was good.
Okay, thanks. Hey, we're looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll get in to the conversation as well. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
What is that? If I were a carpenter and you were
a lady.
Is that Dion? Who sings that?
I don't remember.
Somebody comment. Tell